What are your values? What is your vision? Because if you don't know your vision, if you don't know what your values are, you really don't have a good framework. You're just going off of pure emotion. If you know what your values are and if you know what your vision is, then you can start to go, okay, is what's being presented to me, either from a person or from a proposition, is this in alignment with the vision and the values that I stand by? What is the world that I want to be living in? What am I doing in my day-to-day? What am I doing with my business? What am I doing with my relationships to create the world that I want to be living in today, tomorrow, and on and on? Are you ready to live a life with enough time, money, and energy? Have relationships and connections that delight you? Are you ready for the extraordinary life you know you've been missing? If so, then this is the place for you. I'm a best-selling author, coach, consultant, and speaker who's worked in technology for over 2 decades. I'm a leader at transforming people and organizations from operating in fear, obligation, and guilt to running off joy, ease, and love. It's time for Engineering Emotions and Energy with me, Justin Wink, Ph.D. Today, I'm going to be telling you how to vote. What? Notice, I didn't say I'm going to tell you who to vote for or what to vote for. I am going to tell you how to vote. Have you ever thought of what is the framework or the process by which you go through and vote for whoever the candidate is or whatever the proposition or whatever it might be? That's what I'm going to be going over today. Because I was thinking about, what does it mean to elect versus what does it mean to select? And it's very interesting because if we look at the definitions, elect means you just choose someone to hold public office or some other position by voting. That's it. Yet if we look at what does it mean to select, that is to carefully choose as being the best or most suitable based often by certain qualities. So while they both kind of have some aspect of choice to them, when we select, we're paying special attention to the qualities of whatever's being selected out of multiple options to figure out what is the best for what we're trying to achieve. And so I'm going to invite you to consider for this upcoming election, which could be the one happening, very soon when this comes out in late October of 2024. Or you might be listening to this or watching this sometime in the future. And I'm hoping that this will still be very valid, very helpful, and very instructive even then. Because I don't know, at least in the US, I sometimes, those that are in other countries where maybe they don't have a never-ending election cycle, it's possible to just be getting bombarded with the challenges and the frustrations having to do with what's going to happen in the next election, even after the last election was just decided possibly days ago. It's always like, okay, what's going to happen in the next one? What's going to happen in the next one? Whereas it's really meant to be something that is a short period of time. There's a long period of time for governing, for these choices to allow to percolate, to figure out like, okay, how are they going to do what they're going to do or not do what they're going to do, and to handle the problems that come up day to day, month to month. So two things that I think are really important when you're going to be thinking about how to vote. And again, I'm not going to get into who to vote for or what to vote for, because that's not really what this show is all about. This is about making sure that you can have a joyful, lovable life where you feel great doing what it is that you're meant to be doing in this world for your life. And and if I was going to get into like, oh, you should do this or you should do that, that's really not going to fall into a lot of my values, which brings me to one of the two things that I really think are very important for you to consider. And then also, I'm going to talk about when you've finally done your voting, what to do after that. So the two biggest important things that I want you to consider when you vote is vision and values. So the very important thing is what are your values? What is your vision? Because if you don't know your vision, if you don't know what your values are, you really don't have a good framework. You're just going off of pure emotion. You're just going off of what feels good. You have no way to sort of qualitatively, you have no way to quantitatively, even though it's still very qualitative, it's still very subjective, but you're going to be ruled by your emotion. And what we see in a lot of the modern elections that many times what is going out is purely based on emotion with very little to do with facts or subjective reality at all. But if you know what your values are and if you know what your vision is, then you can start to go, okay, is what's being presented to me, either from a person or from a proposition, is this in alignment with the vision and the values that I stand by? What is the world that I want to be living in? What am I doing in my day to day? What am I doing with my business? What am I doing with my relationships to create the world that I want to be living in today, tomorrow, and on until I'm no longer on this world. And so this is one of the things that I've done multiple episodes of. This is one of the things that I talk about in my book. And this is one of the things I love working with coaching clients, businesses I consult with, is to really flesh out that big, full vision of what is that world like. And after that, the vision, and actually maybe not after, but in conjunction with the vision, what's super, super important is what are your values? What do you value? And this is where it can get a little interesting because there might be your aspirational values, and then there might be like what you actually value. And what you actually value is really, really simple. It's how do you behave? What do you do? Because, for example, like one of my big values is integrity. That means that I'm gonna, if I say I'm gonna do something, I do it. Otherwise, I'm gonna, make up for it. And if you're somebody that's like, yeah, honesty and integrity are very important, yet are you not staying to your word often? Are you making appointments and then not keeping them? Are you saying you'll do something and then you don't do it? Or when there's, something that maybe you should be sharing with someone, maybe you don't actually, tell them all the information that they really should know, then you don't actually value integrity. You value something else. You probably just value, ease and just simplicity and hiding and safety way more than you value your integrity and honesty. But that's okay. Once you know that and you go like, geez, I really want integrity to be one of my values. Now you can work towards behaving in a way in alignment to that. And that actually becomes one of your actual values that you actually live by. So what are some of my values? Because this can kind of give you some ideas of maybe what your values are. And your values don't necessarily have to match my values. And that's okay because we're different people wanting to have different visions for our life. Yet one of my visions is that you and me can have very different visions, very different values, yet we can still have a world where we can live in this and we can be at peace. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to spend a lot of time, doesn't necessarily mean we have to agree, but we can find space and enough resources to do what each of us wants to do. I do believe that there is a way, and that's part of my vision because, okay, let's get on to my values, right? And my values are part of this. They're related to that. Like I said, integrity is very important, communication, love, growth, adventure and fun, connection, creativity, and choice or freedom. These are things I value, and I do my best every single day to live up to these values as best as I can. Am I perfect? No. Does that mean you're going to be perfect? No. Does that mean when we're voting or electing or selecting, does that mean that whoever we're voting for is going to be perfect? No. But when we know our values, we can start to figure out like, well, what are the values of those things that we're about to select? And again, it's one thing to go by what somebody says. It's even more important to go by what they've done. And sometimes they haven't done much, but you can also go by how they say things and how consistent they are when they say things. And if they say things differently, is there a reason? Because again, if I value growth. So if you listen to this episode from 4 years ago, you're likely going to hear some things that are different today because I have grown. Yet if I tell you something today and then you tune in 2 weeks from now and I tell you something completely different, then I'm probably not very congruent as a person, which again is something that is a value that you might value. Is like, are you doing what you say you're doing in a consistent manner? And again, we do change, we do grow. And so these values, is somebody going to match your values 100%? No. But are they matching your values? Are they matching your vision more so than anything else that is a reasonable option in whatever this upcoming election is? And I do want to give a very special call out for the value of safety. Because again, it's really hard to do much in this life if you don't feel safe, if you aren't safe. if you're worried about, dying, if you're worrying about starving, if you're worrying about, your medical health. And say it really is a universal value. There is not one alive human that does not value their safety. If they didn't value it, they likely would not be alive very long. So if we all value safety, then how come it seems like some people they propose that I'm better for your safety than someone else. And this is where it can be very interesting because it's again your values should be very universal, where it's like anyone and everyone can be part of your value and your vision. So to me, everyone can and should be safe, regardless of what they're like, what their visions, what the rest of their values are. So to me, if someone says that I'm Justin, I'm going to make you safe at the expense of someone else's safety, that basically, I don't really count that. Because to me, we can all be safe. We can all have plenty of food. We can all have shelter. We can all have healthcare. We can all have safety from, physical harm from others. That's totally possible. And when someone says that that's all they're going to do just for you, and that seems like in some ways they're going to be taking that away from someone else, then are they really valuing safety? Because in some ways, what happens to someone else can eventually happen to you. So just because it's, you're being kept safe at the expense of someone else for now, how likely is that going to hold, for maybe it holds for a few years, but as we've seen in history, eventually somebody that's not safe is going to do some unsafe things. That doesn't mean that we don't have accountability and consequences for those that do things that do actually cause harm to others. Yet, when we're talking about policy and creating a society and an economy that allows safety for all, it really should allow for safety at all. And if anybody goes, it has to be, you or them, that really is just, to me, I find that that's somebody that really is not very creative. That's actually I'm just going to call it flat out lazy. That is just laziness, that they can't see a way to allow everyone to be safe. Because in this day and age, AI with robotics, with so many things possible, the automation and the abundance that really is available. And I know for a lot of people, they aren't feeling very abundant. Yet that's just because the way things are set up is that it's still set up in this old way where we're used to like there maybe not being enough. And there's studies, and they're just the facts are there is pretty much plenty of everything. It's just how are we going to decide who gets what and when? And so this again, that's why the vision and the values are so important when you're figuring out how are you going to vote. So voting based off of vision and values, that is what I would encourage you when you're going down the line of, people and propositions. And one thing that a lot of people don't talk about is that you don't actually have to vote for everything. If there's something where you're just like, this doesn't seem to have a big sway, or I don't have enough information about, is this going to be for or not as helpful for my vision and my values? You don't have to vote on everything on your ballot. You can just leave some things blank. It's totally okay. If you're like, boy, I really don't like that, but I also don't know if I like this other option, you can also go, I'm not choosing either one of those this time. And that's okay. I'm here to tell you it's okay. You can sometimes say, no, thank you. I don't want either of those, or neither of those is that important to me. I just I'm going to focus my energy and my opinions and my selecting on other things that do really matter to me. Because it's something, it's a little bit like some things that can honestly very much seem like, when you're painting a house or redecorating, or you're planning a wedding, and it's like, what should the center, I see, this is why I don't care so much. It's the centerpieces. What should the centerpieces at the wedding be? I'm like, I don't care. I don't think about centerpieces. Not a big thing. As long as each one is, kind of good enough, I don't care. Like if someone's like, yeah, we're gonna have exploding centerpieces, I'd be like, no, that's a horrible idea. But there's some things where you just go like, I don't know, either one's fine. Then leave it to the people that care, where it is important to them. You don't have to have a strong opinion on everything. And sometimes it's just okay to say like, I'm going to sit this item out on the ballot. Now, I want to end with something very important, which is once you have done your selection, you've chosen very carefully what is the best and most valuable candidate for you to align with your vision and your values. Once you've done this, whether it's in person or you've mailed it in, avoid anything else to do with the election. Avoid any more coverage. Just stop it. Stop it. Other than something that might have to do with there's something that was something happened to your ballot and you need to revote. Anything other than that, just ignore it until there is a certainty that the election has finished. So, depending on where you are, this could be days or even weeks after the election, and this is going to bring you so much peace, so much ease, and so much joy in your life to just cut out weeks, months of nonsense that you can do nothing about and will not impact your life, because again, your life is not impacted by the results of any election until whoever's elected actually takes office, right? And same thing with propositions or whatever you're voting on in a referendum style thing. Until it's meant to take effect, it will not impact your life unless you allow it to, by how you place your attention, what emotions that brings up to you, and how that impacts how you feel and how you see the outside world. Whereas you could just skip all that and place your attention on things that align with your vision and your values. So consume media, have connections, interactions, and conversations that align with your values and your visions. So with that, I hope this has been very helpful in helping you figure out how you are going to vote in an upcoming election that we got here in the US in November of 2024. Very early, and many people can already start their voting now, depending on where you live. But wherever you're listening to this, I hope this has been helpful. And if you're like, boy, I'd really love to figure out what my values are, what my vision is, reach out to me. Send a note either through social media or through email. Let me know what you think about this. So thanks for watching if you're on YouTube, and listening if you're listening wherever this podcast is. And do remember to like, subscribe, and if you can rate this, that's great, and give a little comment. It really does help other people get information like this that can really make people's lives filled with more joy, ease, and love. So with that, I thank you and good day. Thanks for tuning in to Engineering Emotions and Energy with Justin Wink, Ph.D. Today's episode resonated with you? Please subscribe and leave a 5-star review. Your feedback not only supports the show, but also helps others find us and start their journey of emotional and energetic mastery. You can also help by sharing this podcast with someone you think will love it just as much as you do. Together, we're engineering more amazing lives.